Making mistakes is a good thing. Hi there, my name is Peter Forsgard and I am an Olympus visionary and a professional photographer from Helsinki, Finland. And before we start talking about why making mistakes is a good thing, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you get notified when there is a new video online. My channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer and of course about Olympus gear, and this time about mistakes. This video was inspired by a video from James Popsis, a very popular photographic-centric YouTube channel. And the video that really inspired me was where he was talking about how perfection will ruin your images. And I will link to that video in the end of this video, so if you haven't seen it yet, I really sincerely recommend you to watch it. We sometimes, and actually most of the time, spend a lot of time trying to make our image perfect. We find the perfect composition, perfect light, perfect everything, then we make a perfect edit. But what about if we start taking it a bit more easy and start thinking less? Let me explain. About 10-15 years ago, I had a studio here in Helsinki and was making quite a lot of portraits in that studio too. It was some commercials and some other studio work, but portraits was a big thing. And most of the time the clients wanted the image to be perfect. They wanted the perfect looking skin, the perfect eyes, perfect everything, and the image looked really nice. And they were kind of like not saying they were perfect portraits and that I did not make any mistakes. I'm not saying that, but you know, trying to make the person look as good as it is, and usually better than they really were. I used to do a lot of retouching to make the skin perfect, whitening the eye, whitening the teeth, and making everything look as good as possible so that the client would be even better looking than he or she actually was. And I was a gun for hire, if I may quote the famous glamour photographer Helmut Newton, who said that he was a gun for hire. That's what it was. It was bread and butter. You just made those images for clients, for them to be happy. And of course, that's the time that I should be perfect, or trying to make the perfect images. And that was something that started to bug me quite a bit. And then I started making street portraits of strangers, the completely opposite thing, where it was my initiative to take the portrait. And that was trying to make as authentic as possible without any image editing on the part that the person should look better in our general eyes or general view, that what we think is a beautiful person. Because I think everybody is beautiful in their own way. We do have defects in our faces. We're not perfect at all. But that makes us interesting, because if we all would be perfect, it wouldn't be nice at all. And the same thing it was with street photography and scenery. I was trying to look not the obvious. Like what I used to do when I was traveling. I went to a beautiful place where everybody was taking an image of the statue, of the building, of the church. I usually turned my back to the scenery and took the image the other way. And to be honest, those images that were taken to the other way, they were a lot more interesting than the image that everybody else was taking. And in that sense, that's also a mistake. You should take the image of the thing that everybody else is taking or making. And or is it a mistake? I don't know. In my opinion, it's not, but we think that it is. And here are some of those images that I took back then. These are 20 to 15-year-old images that I still have prints from an exhibition that I had. So why did I make those images that I just showed you? It was a time when as I explained, that I had the studio and tried to make people look really nice and better than they are, I was looking for imperfections. I was looking for the unusual. I took images of trash cans when I was traveling, and I still sometimes do. And I was looking for imperfection on strangers. There's something that caught my eye. Of course, when I said that, hey, wow, what a nice hat you have, or what a nice glasses you have, and then try to make them feel pretty and interesting. And then, of course, there was something else that was, it could have been a tattoo, it could have been a scar in the face, or whatever it was that caught my eye. But of course, I wasn't talking about that. And that was something more authentic for me at the time, and it still is. I think those images, now that I look back, those images that I took up in the studio are not really that interesting, but the ones that I took in the streets are a lot more interesting because they're more authentic. They are not polished in any way. Of course, there is some image editing because, you know, just trying to make the concentration on the person, just, you know, darkening the side of the images and stuff like that, of course, because that's only emphasizing the stuff that I wanted to show. That's a bit different thing than just retouching something, some imperfections away. And that also allowed me to make mistakes and not to worry about not getting the perfect image. It was actually mind-blowing, and a lot of it freed my mind of going to only one direction, which was the commercial portrait and editorial portraits and stuff like that. It was really revealing, allowing me to try to make mistakes. I wonder there's an animal, something over there. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know if you heard the cracking noise behind me. I was a bit scared at what it was, but it was an animal. I don't know what it was. But anyways, where was I? It was, it freed me to think differently and make mistakes and leave something in the image that is actually a bit distracting to make the image more interesting. What I mean by having something distracting is to have a bit unconventional. Oh, there's again something going on there. It's scary because there's something behind me. I don't know what it is. Maybe I go and check it out. I don't know what it is. But yeah, the distracting element I was talking about. It is something that leaves you to look at the image longer, because it's something that doesn't belong there. You feel that it doesn't belong there. It's a kind of like a mistake that makes you wonder, what is this distracting element? Why it's there? It's a lot more interesting. And I was talking about this in my live stream when I was talking about leading line images. There were some images that had exactly that small thing that is a bit distracting. And actually, there is a fellow photographer here in Helsinki, a good friend of mine, where I've shared a studio with him in the past, and he used to say that every image needs the Batman's cat. I don't know where he came up with that, but I think a Batman's cat is something that's not there, shouldn't be there, but it is. Don't ask me why it's a Batman's cat, but that's what he said. So now that I've talked about myself, but how would making mistakes help you to get better images? And I'm not saying that you should deliberately take bad images that break all the rules that there are in photography, because the rules that photography kind of like has are not some rules that are written by an authority. It's about the general way of seeing images, what we tend to see pleasing. Like the golden ratio is quite universal way of composing your image or making the composition of your images. And we find that pleasing. If there is like hundreds of images and we pick the best ones, most likely there are quite a few that are or has golden ratio as a composition. That's just the way it is. And then there are some laws of kind of like physics, or the way we see is that we see the brighter part of the image first. And that, of course, leads us to make certain kinds of compositions. And nothing wrong with those, but most likely those images are a bit boring if they are just perfect. And this does not mean that you do not know, or that you do not have to know the basic rules of photography. It's important, because after you learn them rules, then just break the rules, but not all of them at the same time in the same image. But try to add something that is not right and make a mistake, and you will learn and how to obtain this. First, you have to know the rules, then you have to break the rules, and the third thing is you have to start making images for yourself. Do not make images because this one will get lots of likes and this one will get... That will happen eventually if you start making images for yourself and making those mistakes in your image. Small mistakes that are distracting. That will make you a better photographer. And it will also free you to think more. You are more, or you're not afraid to take bad images, which we usually, if we are too afraid of taking bad images, most likely our images will be bad. It's like if we fear winning, then we will lose. We need to fear, or actually nothing, because if you start really overthinking your images, then you're going wrong. What you need to do is to start think with your gut and make images the way you feel and what you feel and how you feel. That will be the key to your success making great images. And by success I mean is something that you decide. Is it fame? Is it just to be happy for yourself, for your progress in photography? It all depends what the success means to you. It's a different thing for all of us. I hope all this made any sense. And I think it's time for me to walk around in these woods and make some mistakes. And here is the video by James Popsis that I was talking about that inspired me to talk about making mistakes in your photography for you to become better. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now. And now I will make some mistakes.